Okay, next thing, this hill and the rock. So today, we all find ourselves standing at the bottom of a pretty big hill. We've got a pretty steep rock. I'm sorry, we've got a big rock, we've got a pretty steep hill, and we've got to push the rock up to the top of the hill. Every time we engage in a revenue-producing activity, we advance the rock up the hill just a little bit. And so now, when I say the revenue-producing activities, the crowd says in unison, that means that we add one more candidate to our candidate list on a daily basis, then we take off. Why would we take somebody off our candidate list? They say yes, they say no, or they're in. That's it. Okay? So the first revenue-producing activity, we add somebody to our candidate list. The second revenue-producing activity is when we invite, utilizing a properly constructed script to let a tool talk. The third revenue-producing activity is when we present the business in a fashion that can, does, and will duplicate. Fourth revenue-producing activity is when we do a new member orientation, utilizing the 10 steps ladder of escalation, making it eminently possible for our new member to become profitable in their first 90 days. Okay? Every time we engage in one of the revenue-producing activities, we advance the rock up the hill. It's a big rock. It's a big rock. It's a steep hill. And so, Rich, what do you think if you push the rock halfway up the hill and then you stop pushing? Do you think the rock will stay there?
Absolutely not.
The rock will not stay there. The rock will roll back down the hill. The bad news is this: the rock will roll down the hill. It'll roll over the top of you. That's what will happen. I'm not telling you that you have to always work once you start, but I will tell you that once you start, if you need to take a pause for any reason, then you must retain forward pressure on the rock. If I'm not engaging in revenue-producing activities, I'm not pushing the rock further up the hill. But if I've stayed engaged, then I'm at least keeping forward weight on the rock so that it won't roll back down.
By doing what?
If I simply step aside, now it rolls down. And so, you are here today. This is not a revenue-producing activity, is it? This is not. This is right now, we're not adding somebody to our list. Right this second, we're not inviting, we're not presenting. So this is not a revenue-producing activity. But this is certainly keeping our shoulder on the rock, isn't it? Because we're here right now, the rock's not going to roll down. And so the exact example, if we're engaged, being here right now does not make the rock go up, because right now, this second, you have a candidate sitting beside you who's going to join you, right? So the rock's not going up. But neither is it going to go down, is it? You're here. And so the rock's not going to go down. So to the extent that we at least stay engaged, then the rock stays here. And the more engagement we have, then the less likely it is, I just use all these little word pictures, the less likely it is that the rock kind of settles into a little indentation that makes it harder to get going forward again. Right? So if I'm staying completely engaged, I'm on one or more of the company's Zooms every week, I'm on the corporate update call, I'm participating in these, even if I am not doing this right now.
Making a suite of tools.
Then that's right. Then the work that I've done up until now will at least retain some value. If I simply step aside, the rock's going to fall all the way back down at the bottom. And not only will it not have been constructive, it will hurt. Why will it hurt? Because now people are going to say, well, Mickey, are you still doing that? How's it working for you? You making any money? Well, no. You see, the longer after we started but don't actually do something, it gets more difficult every day. It doesn't get easier. Our behavior today determines whether this is an easier job tomorrow or a harder job tomorrow. If we don't at least keep the rock where we last left it, it is harder to get it back to that same spot the next time, not easier. And so that's why my counsel always is, don't start until you're ready to start. And that goes all the way down to, do not have a person who should be a TCM become a DBO. Don't do it. They can be a happy TCM doing nothing, but if they're a DBO doing nothing, they'll be unhappy. If they're simply a TCM, they'll swipe the card, they'll be excited about it. But if you cause somebody to be a DBO who should have been a TCM, then they won't swipe the card because they're resentful of it. They spent $495 and didn't get any value. And that's why, well, you'll see it in a couple of minutes, well, right there. We should have 80% of all new members should be TCMs, 80%. If we have more than 20% of all new enrollments that are DBOs, then we're missing the boat. The money is in TCMs long term, and the person who becomes a TCM will never quit. There's nothing to quit. There's nothing to quit. They're swiping the card, they're getting value, there's nothing to quit. The DBOs are the ones that are going to quit, not the TCMs. And so we should be focused on making certain that our overall marketing message is resulting in 80% TCMs and 20% DBOs. That's a bigger number than what the company proposes. That's the number that I believe would create a healthy organization. Okay, coming back over here. So now we push the rock. Is there a time when we can take a break? Yeah, we can take a break. When can you take a break? If you get this rock to a certain spot on the hill where this is you, and now you have one person in 3 separate legs. That's all it takes. If you have one person in 3 separate legs who is earning $500 per month net, that means whatever their maintenance fee is, if they're making $500 per month, they're actually receiving that. Then if you stop pushing the rock, they will not go away because they're making $500 a month. I mean, that's all it takes. If you've got one person in each of 3 legs who are making $500 per month, that's steadily recurring, it's actually happening, coming out of the combination of the bonus pools, whatever the comp plan is, they're actually making $500 per month, then you can know that if you stop pushing the rock will stay there, and your own income will be about $1,200 per month. That's what would happen. If you have 3 separate people who are each making $500 per month, coming from any part of the comp plan components in total, the way that it will shake out is that rock would not roll back down the hill because their profit incentive will keep that going. If you were making $500 a month, you wouldn't leave it. You'd do what's required to keep getting the $500 a month. So once you get it here, then that would produce for you about $1,200 a month income. I wouldn't go through the whole comp plan analysis of hows and whys, but that's about what it would do. Now, if you then reset your shoulder to the wheel and you push it so this goes to 1,500, 1,500, and 1,500, that's the next time that you can take a break. What does that mean? Now that of course means that you have 3 separate senior managers. You have 3 separate senior managers who are earning money in various parts of the comp plan. I mean, Renee, we need to shift our talk away from all of the income components coming out of the bonus pool, just because we don't know exactly what that's going to look like down the road. But I'm completely comfortable saying that if you have 3 separate senior managers, and those 3 senior managers have not been taught that it's just about the bonus pool. It's not just about the bonus pool. The bonus pool is going to pass up to whatever this number is, but a senior manager should be receiving 50% of their income in the other comp plan components. So the problem is you're targeting everything just for the bonus pool. Then it results in, like you mentioned yesterday, a vice president account with 39 that's not going anywhere. That's the result of being specifically targeted to the bonus pool, as opposed to saying whatever our income objective is, no more than 50% of that, even in the early parts of the income, should be coming out of the bonus pool, the other 50% coming from the other comp plan components. And then we can come back over here and talk about a rapid flow of new member applications that'll trigger the manager grants and so on. The point of all this is that every time you get one person in each of 3 separate legs who arrives at a stabilized income number, in this case, if you have 3 people who are making $1,500 a month, and that income is stabilized because a part of it is coming from the community bonus pool, a part of it is coming from leadership, a part of it is coming from the monthly manager grants, when it is a combined piece of income, if you have 3 that are making $1,500, then I can tell you with a great degree of comfort that you will make at least $3,500. And that will be on an ongoing, reoccurring residual basis, based on the fact the rock is not going to roll back down to the hill. It will stay there because of these people's profitability. Now, for so many years of my life, I focused on my number, my number, my number, my number, my number. As long as I was focusing on my number, it seems that I never hit it. When I instead shifted the focus here, if I want to make $3,500 a month, I need to have 3 separate legs where I've got one person in those legs who are making $1,500 a month. And then the number will never disappoint. I'm saying this number, it will be this or more. It will not be less, it will be this or more. If this, then this, or more. And so now, if we keep pushing the rock up the hill until suddenly we have 3 legs with a vice president in it, and those 3 vice president legs have 1/3 of their income coming out of leadership, 1/3 coming out of manager grants, 1/3 coming out of the bonus pool, then that will result in you having at least a $10,000 a month income. That's about what it will take. If you have 3 separate legs with a qualified vice president in it, then that will produce for you $10,000 a monthly income. If these 3 legs have that vice president income being split in the income components, not simply being in the vice president pool. Because you can see what happens in that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can see an exact example.
Yeah.
And so, the rock and the hill, the idea is this: identify your income objectives. Having identified your income objectives, then identify your willingness to work and make sure the 2 line up hand in hand. If they do line up, then realize that once you start, it is simply not one of the, it is not an acceptable possibility to start and stop until you have 3 legs where somebody's making $500 a month. Because if you stop before that, the rock's going all the way back down to the bottom of the hill, and it will be harder to re-engage, right? I mean, that's consistent with your life experience, right? Renee, that's consistent with your life experience. And so this is why I don't want someone who should be a TCM to do anything else. If they're not ready to engage, if they're not going to be pushing the rock up the hill until they've got 3 people in their group making $500 a month, let them be a TCM. Let it be a TCM. Then, if you want to take a little breather after this has been accomplished, no problem. The rock's not going to roll down the bottom of the hill. My observation is that's not usually what happens. If you've got three that are making 1,500, you're excited. You know, you got three, you're excited. But just remember that once you start, you cannot stop until you have three legs that have some level of financial viability in them. If you stop, the rock's going back down to the bottom of the hill, and it'll be harder than if you've never begun. And so when I'm talking with a new member, in their new member orientation, point blank question, Rich, are you willing to engage in this with me, whether the outcome is good or bad, no matter what, everything is disappointing, nothing goes the way we want, you gotta promise me that you're not gonna stop until we have three people that are making $500 a month, because otherwise it's not a good use of our time. Have that conversation with people in the new member orientation. Just be candid, be truthful, tell them the realities. People like the truth, they like the facts, they don't like ambiguity. Okay,